and then we can make a start. So, the Royal Aeronautical Society is the world's foremost institution dedicated to the entire aerospace industry. We were formed in 1866 with the purpose of advancing aeronautical art, science, and engineering around the world. And today we continue with this mission with a focus on the future of aerospace technology and the people working within the diverse aerospace sectors. So we focus very much on being a platform for some of the world's leading minds to share and advance ideas, and to support our members in their own professional development throughout their careers, from making the right educational choices or maybe supporting your professional development, to those who simply just want to give something back to the industry. So there's really something for everyone with the society, no matter how or in what capacity you want to get involved. And we focus much of what we do through these priority themes. We have tomorrow's aerospace professional, the future of flight, and climate change and sustainability. However, you'll see that we are not just limited to these areas as I start to talk about the reach that the society actually has. So a little bit about the society and how we're set up. So as you've already gathered, we are a membership organisation. We have over 25,000 members, and they represent a real broad spectrum of the industry. So I expect that everyone on the call today will be engineers. However, we have members from all sorts of the industry, whether it's pilots, air traffic controllers, obviously engineers, business support, flight crew operations, legal professionals. We literally have lots of members from different backgrounds. I personally think that makes us a really interesting place to be. All of these members are contributing to our specialist areas and the work that we do, and they really do provide all of these different perspectives on the work that we're doing. We're also a global community, so we have a strong presence in the UK. As you probably know, we have over 47 branches in the UK. However, we do have branches and divisions worldwide. So we are really set up that if you do move around the world, or if you're based somewhere else, then you should have access to an area of the society. Also licensed by the Engineering Council. So we're a professional engineering institution, and we're licensed to provide professional registration. So we're going to go on to talk about becoming a chartered engineer, an incorporated engineer, or engineering technician. But also we're here promoting engineering standards. So we don't just provide professional registration. We do lots of other stuff, such as accrediting, degrees, graduate schemes. We're also an endpoint assessor for apprenticeship schemes as well. So we do lots and lots of work in promoting engineering standards. Something that a lot of people don't realise about professional institutions is that a lot of them are actually registered charities. So we're not for profit, and a lot of the money that comes into us through membership fees or through other contributions to the society that gets put back out into the industry. A lot of that is through our careers and outreach team, but also through reinvesting into our members, so into our membership services, such as your professional development. Also, and very importantly, we're a platform for knowledge. So we are here to provide a platform for you to share your ideas and also learn from other people, and just be this huge library and resource for you to gain knowledge. So to become professionally registered, you do need to become a member of a professional engineering institution, such as the Royal Aeronautical Society, and with membership comes membership benefits. Now, what you'll notice is that a lot of these membership benefits are really focused towards your professional development. And why that's important for you when you're thinking about becoming professionally registered is that it is a requirement of registration to perform continuing professional development, so CPD. So we do expect that you professionally develop yourself, and a lot of that can be done through the institution that you're a member of. So just to run through these membership benefits quickly, we have a monthly aerospace magazine that's posted out to our members once a month, but it's also available online through an app and also through your membership profile. We have a platform called Aeronautical, which is your professional development platform, and I am going to go into more detail on that in a minute. We also have specialist groups that you can join, and that's a great way to tailor your membership. So you can sign into your profile and you can select the specialist areas that you're actually interested in. We have a full conference and lecture program. So some of our bigger conferences happen at our headquarters, but then we have lectures that happen all across the world and all of our different branches. We have a full lecture program at our branches as well. And moving on to branches, you can sign up to any branches that are local to you, and you can sign up to as many as you want to. We also provide professional recognition. Now, part of that is the professional recognition you can gain through gaining registration, but also as a membership institution, we have graded membership. So you can gain a professional recognition through having your membership graded. We look at a combination of your experience and your academics within the aerospace industry, and through that you can gain post-nominal letters. We have a very popular medals and awards scheme as well, so that's another bit on the recognition piece. So you can nominate peers and colleagues and companies for various different medals and awards. We're also the proud owners of the National Aerospace Library, so the physical library is actually based down in Farnborough, and I would thoroughly recommend a visit if you are able to get down there, because they have lots and lots of interesting things that they've collected up over the years, and they would be very happy to give you a tour. But also, if you're doing any research projects or if you simply want a place to work, there is a space down in Farnborough. However, lots of their materials are available online. So if you can't get down to Farnborough, we have lots of ebooks and journals available for you to access online. We also produce briefings and specialist interest documents, and also the Aeronautical Journal, so that is free for all of our members to access. We have a careers team as well, so they are really here to support in your career. So, you know, if you're just starting out, maybe you're studying, or you're just starting out in your career and you need some support, then our careers team can support you at any stage. And then finally, I just wanted to mention our volunteering opportunities. And that's because it's simply a really great way to get some more experience for your CPD, also to put onto your CV. And that is through lots of different avenues with the society. So whether that is joining a committee, so committees run a lot of the activities that the society does, whether that's specialist groups or on branches, but also through the membership services as well. Or you might be interested, as you are thinking about becoming professionally registered in the future, becoming a mentor for someone or becoming a professional review interviewer. So lots of opportunities there to gain more experience, but also to give something back to the industry. So I mentioned Aeronautical. So this is particularly important for people who is becoming professionally registered to take note of, because Aeronautical is a professional development tool. So we basically bring a lot of your membership benefits into one place, but also we have courses on there that you can take part in. We have some shorter courses and some longer professional paid for courses as well. We have briefing and specialist interest documents on there, some of our books and journals, and also recordings of lectures and podcasts on there. There's also a space for you to record your initial or continuing professional development. So if you are working towards professional registration at the moment and you want a place to record your competencies, which we will talk more about later in the webinar, then this is a great tool to start doing that. It's a place to record against particular competencies, but also you can start reviewing and start pulling all of your work into one place. Mentioned our events, and I just wanted to draw attention to all of the wonderful events that you can take part in every year. So we have a full events calendar, which includes webinars, lectures, conferences, seminars. So usually our lectures are free to attend, and they are usually hosted across our branch network. So if you are interested in joining your local branch, you can head to your preferences online and just sign up to that. But then some of our bigger conferences and lectures will be available on our events calendar online through our website. So that's aerosociety.com. So I've only put 2 events on there because there's lots for you to look through on our events calendar. But these are 2 of our bigger conferences that are coming up online. There are member discounted tickets. So once you sign up for membership, you can obviously take advantage of that. And the 2 that I've drawn attention to are the President's Summit, which is coming up, which is going to be hosted by Carissa Khan, who's our current president, and it's the theme of future of flight. And then also we have one coming up in October called the Aircraft Structural Design Conference. So if you do want any more information on these, you can email our events team at events@aerosociety.com. We also wanted to draw your attention to our specialist groups as well. So these are the areas that our specialist groups work in. And as I mentioned, you can sign up to any of these through your preference profile. And you can sign up to any or all of them if you really want to. So you can obviously be a member of as many specialist groups as you like. They'll start sending you information of what's going on within the group at the moment. So whether they've got events or conferences coming up, or they're working on specialist projects or papers, then they will update you on that. And also, just to give you a snapshot of our branches, you can see in the UK there we have lots of branches scattered around that you can sign up to. We also have more branches across Europe and Middle East there. And then we have some of our bigger divisions worldwide in Australia, Pakistan, New Zealand, and South Africa. So just a quick run through the membership grades. So as you can see, we have a few different membership grades, and that's really to cater for anyone who might want to join at any stage of your career. So what you'll notice about this chart is you can see the professional registration post-nominal letters next to membership grades, and that's because there is a minimum membership grade to sign up as if you want to apply for professional registration. So starting at the bottom of the chart, you can see we've got our affiliate members. So apprentices and students, if you are studying in an aerospace related discipline, you can sign up for free and access all the membership benefits online. We also have the affiliate grade, which is open to anyone who wants to sign up to the Society's membership. Then graded membership goes through the membership committee. And as I mentioned, we look at a combination of your aerospace experience and also any academics that you hold. So as a rough guide, the next stage up is the associate grade. It is the minimum level required for EngTech registration. And this is based on having a level 3 qualification or above. Or you might be employed in an aerospace or aerospace related profession without recognised qualifications and be able to demonstrate a basic level of skill and development in your profession. The associate member grade is the minimum grade required for iEng, so incorporated engineer, and this is based on having an ordinary degree or holding an alternative academic or vocational qualification. And you should be able to demonstrate sufficient experience and learning to be considered at this grade. Then the member grade is the minimum level for chartered engineer. And this is based on having an honours degree, or again, if you don't have an honours degree, you can have sufficient experience in aerospace or an aerospace related profession. And you should also be able to demonstrate an appropriate level of responsibility and experience within aerospace. Then finally at the top there, we've got the fellow grade. So this is usually awarded to people that have made an outstanding contribution to aerospace or an aerospace related profession, or if you've attained a position of high responsibility in aerospace, then usually you would be suitable for the fellow grade. Now, what I will say at this point is that if you are not sure which level of membership you might be suitable for, we do have the membership handbook online, which you can have a look through. Or if you want to send me a copy of your CV, I can review this for you and give you some guidance. So you just need to email that to membership@aerosociety.com. That's the membership portion of the webinar. We're now going to go on to talk about professional registration. So the Engineering Council is the UK regulatory body for the engineering profession, and they set the standards for all professional engineering institutions to assess someone to become professionally registered. So we're regulated and audited by them, and so are all the other institutions. So it does mean that no matter which institution you apply for, your actual registration is held with the Engineering Council. And you can be safe in the knowledge that all of these institutions have to adhere to exactly the same standards. So the standards and requirements that we talk about today will be the same no matter who you talk to. This does also mean that you can move institutions and still maintain registration. So for example, if you gain registration with someone else or with us and your career takes a different turn, then you can move around professional engineering institutions, maintain a membership, and also transfer over your registration. So what is professional registration? Basically, it's a recognition that your competence has been assessed and that you've attained the standard required for admission onto this national register at one of these three levels. So we have engineering technician, incorporated engineer, and chartered engineer. And it's achieved by demonstrating absolutely everything that you've done in your career. So we look at your underpinning knowledge and understanding, your competence, and your commitment. Now at this stage, what I would like to do is launch a poll for those that are on the call, so that we can get a better understanding of where you are with professional registration. So we'd like to know what level of registration you are working towards at the moment. And it doesn't matter if you don't know, you might be on this call to find out more. That's absolutely fine. It's just useful for us to know. Okay, so it looks like we're just getting some votes in now. So we've got a lot of people working towards chartered engineering, incorporated engineer. We've got a few people that are not sure, so that's great. You're in the right place because we're going to go through everything from scratch. So hopefully by the end of this call, you will have a very good idea. So I'm going to close that poll. And I'm going to talk about why you might want to become professionally registered. So the first thing to say is that we don't license our engineers in the UK like they do in other countries. So the Engineering Council basically built this framework and a peer review process to assess the competence and professionalism of practicing engineers in the UK. So as I mentioned before, it's a demonstrating of everything that you've done. It's not just a certificate that you take away, such as, one that you get from your degree. It really is a demonstration of your qualifications, your experience, your hard work, and also your commitment to the industry. And it's also a demonstration that you're going to continue to professionally develop. So as I mentioned before, you do sign up to say you're going to work on your CPD. So CPD is a requirement when you become professionally registered. And you're basically saying that you've met this level, you've met this really high standard, but you're going to continue to professionally develop to this high standard going forward. I also think it's becoming less of a nice to have and more of an essential qualification in the industry. A lot of companies that I speak to now are mandating this in certain job roles. So especially if you're in a safety critical role, you know, a lot of the job descriptions will actually state working towards or have achieved chartered engineer or incorporated engineer. So I think that's an important thing to note for career progression as well. But from a personal perspective, it is a recognition of your qualifications, your expertise and your hard work. You do gain these globally recognized letters after your name, so you can start using CEng, iEng or EngTech. It should increase your credibilities with your peers, employers, customers and suppliers. It will give you greater influence within the organisation and industry. And as I mentioned before, it should improve your career prospects. At this stage, I just wanted to quickly ask Chris, from your perspective, what do you think is really important about becoming professionally registered? So obviously you work at Rolls-Royce at the moment. Why do you think, from your perspective, it's really important?
So for me, it's about having an independent assessment of your competence in your job. So when you apply for a new role, or maybe you're looking to develop in your current role, you have that behind you. So it's not just the fact you've got a degree and you've got 20 years experience. You've sat in front of a panel, you've put yourself through a process, you've been assessed by your peers, and your peers have assessed you to be of a level operating as EngTech, incorporated engineer, or a chartered engineer. And I think, as you said, Emily, there are certain companies now who are mandating requirements for registration. The MOD particularly, they have started to mandate, we know, incorporated engineer, chartered engineer for certain roles. And then out in civilian industry, we are seeing roles being advertised where you must be working towards or be able to attain or have attained engineering technician, incorporated engineer and chartered engineer. The other things that you can get from it are some of the larger companies will pay for your membership, and they will pay for your engineering registration. There are tax breaks around that as well. For those that don't know that, it is a way of increasing your network because you get to go to these events. And I think one of the biggest things for me was becoming a professional review interviewer, as well as being a mentor. So I've been mentoring now for about 30 years, and I've put quite a number of people through this process. And you watch people coming in with little or no experience, or maybe they're relatively experienced and just need some help getting over that final hurdle. But you get to watch them, grow, you get to help them grow. And there's a sense of satisfaction in being able to do that, because you're committing yourself to the industry. You're showing that commitment through developing the next generation of engineers to come through. And I think that for me is really it. It's being able to help the next generation come through, secure the future of the industry, and put, it's a different spin on sustainability. If we're not doing this work, then the industry is not going to have the people to sustain itself going forwards.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Really interesting insight from someone that's just been so involved in the whole process for quite some time. So I think it's really invaluable to hear from you today. So as I mentioned, we have these three categories of registration. So I'm going to quickly run you through the 3 categories, and then we're going to move on to the actual requirements for registration. So engineering technicians, they apply proven techniques and procedures to the solution of practical engineering problems. So we do see a lot of apprentices come out of their approved apprenticeship scheme, and usually they are then ready to apply for engineering technician. And that's simply because of the practical nature of the way they've done their studying. Then we have incorporated engineers. They maintain and manage applications of current and developing technology. You may undertake engineering design, development, manufacture, and construction and operation. So these are people that are usually in sort of management level roles. And then we have chartered engineers who develop solutions to engineering problems using new or existing technologies through innovation, creativity, and change. And you may have technical accountability for complex systems. So these are really people in leadership and management roles. Now, I did want to point you towards the UK spec at this point. So the UK spec is the framework that the Engineering Council developed, and it's the framework that we use to actually assess engineers. And what's useful about the UK spec, it does have all 3 levels of registration in, and it does break down all of the requirements in it, but it also has these comparison charts. So if you're on the call today and you're one of the people that answered you're not sure about professional registration and what level you might be applying for, then this is a really useful tool. So you can head into the UK spec, have a look across all 3 levels, and you can see that I've highlighted, a few useful buzzwords there because it really highlights the sort of nuances between iEng and cEng, for example. So you can see iEng really focuses on using existing technologies and developing those and being in management sort of level roles. And then chartered engineers look at using theoretical knowledge to solve problems in new technologies. And then also having technical accountability and also leading and developing people as well. So really useful to go over to the UK spec and have a look as your first point of call. But what does it take to become professionally registered? Well, this framework basically allows us to review people's applications. We are looking for engineers who can embrace change, they're adaptive and creative, they're technically sound, commercially aware, you're committed to your profession and personal development, and that you've been through this peer review process. And there's 2 main parts of your application. So firstly, we look at your underpinning knowledge and understanding. And secondly, we look at your competence. So looking at your underpinning knowledge and understanding. So for EngTech, as I mentioned, we're looking for a level 3 qualification or above. And these are usually demonstrated through people that have done an advanced or modern apprenticeship, MVQs, or national certificates and diplomas. Then iEng, we're looking for a bachelor's level of underpinning knowledge and understanding. And the reason we use underpinning knowledge and understanding rather than degree is because it is simply that we're looking for that underpinning knowledge rather than degree. You don't need to go and get an accredited degree to apply for iEng. So your most direct route would be to have an accredited degree. However, don't despair if you don't have these qualifications, because there is always a route into registration if you have that technical knowledge. So you might demonstrate it through other qualifications, so through a HNC, a diploma. You might have an ordinary degree that's not actually accredited. We would accept all of these qualifications, but also you can demonstrate underpinning knowledge and understanding through experiential learning. So you might demonstrate that through the experience and technical knowledge that you've gained throughout years working within the industry. And the same applies for cEng. So it's a master's level of underpinning knowledge and understanding, so a level 7. You might have an accredited integrated MEng or an accredited MSc and bachelor's degree. or you might have achieved an equivalent level of underpinning knowledge and understanding through other courses or experiential learning. So if you're not sure whether you've met these requirements, then before you apply for full registration, what you could think about doing if you're a few months off applying or even years off is doing a qualification assessment. So this is basically for anyone that doesn't hold an accredited degree. You can apply for an assessment of your suitability for either CEng or IEng from the underpinning knowledge and understanding perspective. So if you're interested in that, you can send an email to registration@aerosociety.com and the team will send you an application form and the process to apply for this. Also, if you are not sure if your degree was accredited, then you can have a look on the Engineering Council's website. It's called a recognised qualification search, and you just need to put in your course title and provider, and it will come up with a list of the courses that were accredited and also the institution that accredited them. So just to note here that it doesn't matter which institution accredited your degree. If it's listed on the Engineering Council's website, then we will accept this as an accredited degree. So the second half of your application is all about your competencies, which we're going to hand over to Chris to talk about, but I'm just going to quickly mention interim registration. So if you are not quite ready to apply for CEng or IEng, you might be, a year or two off, or you're just starting out in your career, but you have the academic qualifications, then you can apply for interim CEng or IEng. It's basically a demonstration that you've met the academic standards for either of these levels. Whether it's an accredited degree or you go through the qualification check, it's a great way to demonstrate your commitment to becoming professionally registered. You get entered onto the register, and you can use, interim CEng or interim IEng after your name as well. So just to mention that, if you're not thinking about applying in the very near future, this might be an option for you. It's a great way to demonstrate to your employer as well that you are planning to apply for it in the future. So at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Chris to talk about the second part of the application, which is focused on the competence framework.
Okay, so when you come to put in for your applications, we have 5 areas that we concentrate on. Each one of the levels has a slightly different spin on each one, so you get a slightly different competence that you need to satisfy. But essentially, competence A is looking at your knowledge and understanding. So that's your underpinning knowledge. It's your qualifications. It's about how you've applied your qualifications. And that doesn't have to be your national diploma. It can be something like going on a CAD course and then applying it into the workplace. It could be doing an ANSYS course, for example, and again, applying that into the workplace. So it's gaining the knowledge and how you apply it. We also look in there for things like continuous improvement. And we're also looking for CEng level, you're looking at innovations. What innovative things are you doing? Competence B really focuses on the design, development, solving engineering problems, which breaks down roughly into doing the research for a problem, developing a solution for a problem, and then applying that solution. Competence C, responsibility, management, and leadership, is about how you interact with people, how you manage people, if you manage people, how you might manage budgets, how you might run a plan. Can you develop a plan? Competence D is all about your ability to speak and communicate clearly in the English language. And when I'm looking at forms, one of my criteria I look at as sitting on the committee is if you cannot fill in the right number of boxes in competencies A to C, and explain clearly what it is you're trying to get over, then you've failed the assessment on competence D, because you have clearly failed to communicate clearly how you meet a competence. So that's something to bear in mind in there. But it's also about, have you presented at conferences? Have you given a presentation to a team or your leadership? And how generally you deal with people. Competence E, we come into personal and professional commitment. And here we start talking about things like sustainability, not only from an eco perspective, but also from an industry perspective. How are you going to promote your profession? Okay, and the next. So in the UK Spec 4 document, you will find each competency explained in this way. You can see on the screen. We're just going to look at a competence A, because otherwise it just gets get bogged down explaining each individual competence and how it relates to each of the levels. I think an important point to make as well is that no matter which level of registration you apply for and are subsequently awarded, they are not ranks. They are a recognition of the area and ability that you are operating at the point of registration. So nobody is saying that an engineering technician is the lowest rank and a chartered engineer is the highest, because it isn't. It is all different registration levels. But if you're curious about engineering technician and how you might meet those skills, so you're looking to apply technical and practical skills, and you'd be looking to demonstrate that they review and select appropriate techniques, procedures, and methods to undertake tasks. So, for example, if you are working on the line and you've got an oil leak, how do you go and find out where that oil leak comes from? What procedures are you going to apply? What methods are you going to use to fix it? What principles do you apply? Are you just going to get a spanner and wrench on it, or are you actually going to think about it? Are you actually going to work out there's the torque level required, and maybe you need to put a bar on the spanner or your wrench? With incorporated engineers, we're looking for people with specialist engineering knowledge and understanding to apply existing and emerging technologies. And those who apply for it would have maintained and extended a sound theoretical approach to the application of technology in engineering practice, or use sound evidence-based approaches to problem solving. An example I can use here is one of my mentees who developed a slack can welding facility for Airbus. He took that from something which produced 50% scrap to a process which was sort of a 99% capable process, by understanding how to apply existing technology. By then saying, well, actually, we can improve that technology, and I've gone to supply A and found a suitable piece of equipment. For chartered engineers, and this is where it becomes important to think about what Emily has said about leadership. So leadership of an engineering task, where you are accountable for coming up with something from essentially from idea to implementation. And your applicants will have maintained and extended a sound theoretical approach, and that's really your underpinning learning and how you've applied some of that underpinning learning. And you're developing these technological solutions to unusual, challenging problems. So that might be, for example, think in a Rolls-Royce context, a drive shaft from a new material that's never been used in an engine before. You can take that idea from scratch, you can develop it, you can lead it to an implementation. Okay, Emily, next please. Our qualifying report forms are based entirely on what you will find in UK Spec 4 issued by the Engineering Council. Other institutes have different ways of doing it to satisfy those competencies, but we're using the same format as you will find in UK Spec 4. And here you can see a couple of examples. So A1 and A2, that's how competence A is split. Competence B is actually split into three, of which you can see 2 on the screen. When you come to put your evidence in here, you should be thinking about what you have done. We're not really interested in what your team's achieved, unless it is as a direct result of something that you have done that has allowed your team to achieve. And it's really important that when you complete this, that you talk in the first person. So for example, I undertook a period of study. I led an investigation of. I identified a problem. And you must be explicit about what your role is in that task. So for example, I led a team to develop a new solution. With my mentees, I asked them to qualify the statements that they write. So for example, I developed a new tool, or I developed a new analysis tool that allowed a reduction in run time of 8 hours. That saved £300 per run per day. So that way you are being very clear about what your task was. An example of a poor task would be, as a member of a team, we came up with a solution to improve something. So what? At the end of the day, you will be sat in front of your peers for I-Eng and C-Eng interviews, and you will have to explain what it is that you have written, and you will be quizzed on what you have written. And if it's not clear, as a registration committee, you are likely to find your application form returned to you with a request for clarification, because you're not meeting clearly competence D, which is being able to communicate clearly. But you've also been unclear as to what you individually have done. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Do you want me to talk through the documents required?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So the qualifying report form is the main part of your application, if you like. It's the big report that you'll need to write for the competency areas. The other document that you'll need to put together is a technical task. So we look for a 2-page account of a technical task that you've carried out, which demonstrates your technical and your managerial responsibility. I don't know, Chris, have you got any sort of good examples of what might be a good account of a technical task?
Yeah, so we look for something in depth. So you're looking at something here that really can pull all of those 5 competence areas together. So in the past, for example, I interviewed someone who was served with the RF, and he was the engineering representative on a board of inquiry for a crash. And he was able to talk through about the events leading up to the crash itself, the investigation, and then what his personal part in that investigation was. How he'd been in and looked at components, he'd talked to the technical specialists about that and brought all that evidence back together to present back to his committee. So that could be one thing. Maybe you are in fluid dynamics world and you've come up with a new method for evaluating a flow around a turbine blade, for example. And you can break that down and you can talk through it in detail, and you can talk about why it's a better process. What is it that you've done to improve that process? And how is it going to benefit you in your company moving forwards? So there's a whole raft of things you can talk about. Anything from methods developments, which is that CFD work, to the practical stuff in the field, but also for people who are engaged in manufacturing. You know, for example, maybe you've come up with a new welding technique, as I mentioned earlier with those slack cans. That makes a perfect case study because it involves getting technical information together. It means you have to understand what you're looking at. You have to be able to improve the solution. You're potentially spending your company's money in investing in your ideas. And in this particular case, it was several £million. So again, you can be specific. You can say, I saved several £million by introducing this new method. And this is how I did it. These are the steps I went through. So it's really a story. It's a 2-page story, which you then get invited to talk about for approximately 5 minutes on the day.
Thank you, Chris. So in addition to that, we asked for a development action plan. This should detail your plans for continuing professional development in the short, medium and long term. Now, these are 3 boxes that you submit online, so I'd recommend that you put this together in a Word document. We usually look for about a paragraph on each, so a paragraph on short-term, medium and long-term goals. We also ask you for a CV, so we need an up-to-date copy of your CV with full details on your responsibilities within your roles and also any relevant training courses. So if you've done any courses that are under 6 months in length, then we'd expect you to list these on your CV as well. We also need an organisational chart. So this is just a picture of where you sit within your company with details of anyone that reports into you and who you report into. We often get questions about sort of being data sensitive. We are just looking for the headlines. So obviously we don't want any personal details in there. We're just looking for a sort of clearer picture to go with your CV for the committee to review. And then finally, we also ask for your qualifications. So we need details of any academic qualifications that you hold and also any licenses that you hold as well. So if you're a maintenance engineer, for example, you'd put that into this section. If your degree isn't accredited, we also need transcripts from your degrees. So details of all the modules and the pass marks that you got for each module. And the final requirement for the online form is having a referee. So you need to have someone who is professionally registered. They don't need to be registered with the society. However, it can be helpful when they're helping you with the process. And they will basically endorse your application. Now, what I would recommend with your referee is that it's someone that you work with or you know that can also support you with your application, actually act as a mentor when you're working on your qualifying report form. So we would expect your referee to know your application, to have read it before you actually apply online, because then they can give you feedback, you can do any rewrites, and then when you come to apply online, it's just a case of submitting it and your referee being able to endorse it. So when you press submit, it basically sends an email to your referee with a link to your application and then a button to press to endorse. The application process is completed online. So if you head to aerosociety.com, in the top right-hand corner, you'll see various options to either log into your account or to create a new account. And then from there, you just head to My Memberships, which is where you can start your application. Now, you do need to start a membership application before you start a registration application. However, you can submit both at the same time. So if there's a review date coming up that you want to submit for, you can submit both applications. So when you apply for membership and registration at the same time, your application is then reviewed by the various committees. Now, if you don't hold an accredited degree, your registration application will be reviewed by the Individual Assessment Panel, the IAP, and they are a group of essentially an academic review group who will look at just the underpinning knowledge and understanding element of your application. Then once it's been through that process, it then goes to the registration committee. And if you're approved at that point, you then get put forward for a professional review interview, so PRI. This is for iEng and CEng only. So if you're working towards Eng Tech at the moment, the final stage will be the registration committee. And if you're approved, you then gain Eng Tech registration. So the PRI is an hour long. It is with 2 of our professional review interviewers, and they are people that have been through the same process. So this really is a peer-to-peer review. And they basically go through this process. They opt in to become an interviewer, and we train them to interview people who want to become registered. The hour is usually wholly focused on the competencies that you've put into your qualifying report form and your technical task. And it will usually go through in a fairly logical order. So, you know, you'll start at competencies A and work through to competency E. And the interviewers will basically be asking you to expand on some of the examples that you've put into your application and just ask you to talk about the work that you've done to date. Did you have anything you wanted to add to the interview part, Chris?
I would say that when you get to interview, just make sure that you understand your form, because your entire interview is going to be based around what you supply, the information that you supply. So it's always good just to have that final refresh. And the other thing I would say as well is when you come to interview, take a pen and paper in with you. We're all engineers, and some of the best ways I've found is if you want to talk about an idea, pick up a pencil and draw it. It's amazingly effective. I'm sure many people know that, but that would be my take on interviews.
Perfect, thank you. So I have seen a question come in about exemplars and all the materials. So I am going to send out some links and some follow-up materials after the webinar today. But a quick link over to our website is aerosociety.com and then /CEng or iEng or EngTech. At the bottom of these pages, you will find some exemplars and also all the guidance that you need. So the registration handbook and the UK spec, it's all there on those pages. I would also recommend that your first step, if you haven't started on registration yet, is find a mentor. So find someone that's professionally registered who can support you through this process. As I mentioned, you know, it's really important to have that second pair of eyes on your qualifying report form and get them to give you feedback so that you can rewrite things before you get to the final application process. I also wanted to mention there are some application routes. So if there are people that work in the armed forces, so the Royal Navy, the RAF, or if you're a senior manager, there are various different application routes for those people. If you're interested, then obviously get in touch with us on membership@aerosociety.com. And finally, just to mention that there are closing dates. So if you're working towards registration, you can work towards these closing dates. Obviously, there are only 6 throughout the year. There's only 3 remaining in this year. So it's really important that you work towards these so that you don't miss an application round if that's what you're working towards. So the next one is the 20th of June. And also, if you do want some further support and you want to talk to myself or one of my colleagues about your application, then you can book a support appointment. You can also review some of the webinars that we've pre-recorded on aerosociety.com/support. On that page, there's a booking link and you can book a 30-minute Teams call with us to talk through your experience in your application. So these are the ways that you can get in touch with us. The main email address is membership@aerosociety.com if you have any further questions. We've almost reached our time. We've got a couple of minutes just to have a look at the questions. So I'm just going to have a quick look over and see if there's anything we can ask Chris before we log off. And Chris, if there's anything that you want to add to the process or registration that you think of, then obviously dive in.
Sure. I mean, one of the things I would say is about mentors. Your mentor is going to be the person that helps you through this process. Now, some people don't have access to mentors because maybe they work in small, medium-sized enterprises where it's just no one registered around you. If that's you, then talk to the society and they'll try and hook you up with a qualified person away from your business. And that's something Emily and I have done in the past week. That's worth thinking about and considering. There's also a misconception, I think, that if you have 2 years experience for iEng or 4 years for CEng, then that's enough and you can just apply. That's not the case. You could actually meet all those competencies in a period of less than 2 years for iEng and in a period less than 4. But equally, it might take you 6 years to reach that level, that threshold, to get through the process. So one of the most important things I can tell you is do not treat this as a sprint, because if you treat it as a sprint, the only thing you are going to do is wreck your own mental health trying to get through it. So it's not a race, it's when you're ready.
Yeah, that's good advice.
The qualifying report form has 4 boxes on per subcompetence, and whilst we say minimum of 2, this is a sales document for you. So if you only think that you've only done enough stuff to fill 2 boxes, then the chances are you're going to get that report form returned to you. So the more evidence you put in there, the easier the job for the registration committee, the easier job for your interviewers, and the better that your interview will go. Sorry, over to you, Em.
So I'm just having a look at the couple of the questions. We're quite limited on time, but we'll just give it a couple of minutes. So one question did come through about people who are abroad. So this person's in Mauritius, and they asked if they can apply and also how the interview works. So actually most of our interviews are done virtually. They are on Teams. So obviously anyone can apply around the world, and you can still do your interview virtually. Some of them are taking place in person, but the majority of them are done on Teams. So you'll have 2 interviewers on Teams. Someone else did ask about the application process. So you have quite a couple of options when you actually get to apply for professional registration online, and there's an option that asks you whether you're applying through the individual or the standard route. So the individual route is for those that don't have accredited degrees. So if you're applying and you're putting your transcripts up there, or you're applying through the experiential route, then you'd apply through the individual route, and then through the standard route for those with accredited degrees. And I think that we've had a few other questions come through, and what I'm going to do is have a look through those and probably add those to our summary document. So we have a Q&A document that will go out in the follow-up materials. Since we're a bit short on time, we'll just make sure that everything is answered in that. But I think you have all received individual answers from Stephanie anyway. But just leaves me to say thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for joining us. I think it's incredibly useful to have someone that has, been through the process and also been just so involved in the registration process for so long. So thank you so much for today.
It's a pleasure.
And as I said, stay in touch. If you have any questions, please get in touch with membership@aerosociety.com, or do book one of those support appointments. We're very happy to talk you through the process or anything that you need to know. So thank you very much for joining us today, everyone. It's so good to see so many people interested in registration. And take care. I hope you all have a good day. Thank you.